Welcome back to your local outdoor store. What's up, Bryson?
What up?
So you want to get started fishing and you don't know where to begin. So we're going to talk about the basic stuff you need just to get started, because it can be pretty overwhelming, as you can see. So the first thing you need to choose is your rod and reel. Now, there are an immense amount of rods and reels that you can choose from. You don't want to go expensive if you're just starting. You want very simple, very beginning. This is your first one. It's a closed face and it has your line already on it. Little push button, that's how you release the line. Or you can choose your spinning reel combo. This is open face with a bell. Still has line on it. Both running about $35 to $45. Well, now that you got your rod and reel combo, if it doesn't have line on it, or if you wanted to change the line is the next thing that you need to look at. You basically have two types. You've got your braid, which is basically a braided line, or you have your monofilament. Monofilament is basically polymers mixed together and then extruded through tiny holes, making different weights, different poundages of line. And so what I basically recommend is anywhere from like 8 to 10 pounds to start off with, because that's pretty much going to hold most of the things that you're going to be fishing for starting out. Now you're ready to move on to your next thing, which is your weights and your hooks and even some bobbers. Let's choose a weight. You've essentially got two basic types of weights. You've got a split weight, which has a split in it so that you can crimp it onto your line, or you have bullet weights, which can slide up and down on the line for different applications. Both will work fine for your basic needs. When it comes to your weights, of course, you've got different size weights. I would probably just stick with that, an 8-ounce weight to start with, because again, we're starting very basic. It's going to get you out there, it's going to get you what you need, and it won't be too heavy if you do decide to use a bobber. Alright, here's where it gets a little tricky. When we get to our hooks, you're going to see these numbers on them. They're going to say size. This says size 1. Well, the smaller the number, the bigger the hook. So it's just easier if you look and you can just kind of guess on like the size that you want. Because remember, we're starting out, we're basic. You look at them and you think about, okay, what am I going to be using? What size weight? What size bobber? What am I really trying to catch? So I usually, when I first start out and I start my kids out, I get a size 2 gold hook, real simple. This will catch most of the things that you're trying to catch. Also, on the back of the packages, they'll show you how to set your line up, and we'll get to that in just a minute. All right, now here's where you decide how you're going to fish. You got your bobbers. Now, of course, a bobber does exactly what it says it does. You got your line, put it on your line, and it bobs up and down on top of the water. It holds your line off of the bottom of where you're fishing. Now, you don't have to use a bobber. A bobber just allows you to keep your bait suspended in the water. Some people do fish on the bottom of wherever they're fishing, and you can catch fish this way as well, especially like catfish, things like that. All right, so let's talk about how to rig up your line. Super simple. You take your hook and you tie it onto your line, and we'll go over a knot in just a minute. And then you're going to take your little weight. I just used that little split weight, crimped it on right here. Here's where it gets a little weird. Your bobber. Some people don't know how to use a bobber. So this isn't to scale, but it could be, depending on if you're fishing super shallow water. But on the bottom of your bobber, right here, squeaky, squeaky, right there at the bottom, you press the top, the whole top. Okay? A little hook comes out. You're gonna put it on your string and close it. And so then, after you clip the bottom, you take your finger and you push down on top while also holding the bottom closed. Push down on the top, same little hooky thing. I usually wrap it around like that. That way it keeps my bobber from sliding all over the place. So that's your super simple rig that you're going to use to pretty much catch most of the things that you want to catch. Now, let's talk about tying your hook on. Super simple knot to do. you just want to take it and you just tie a bunch of just simple little over under loopy things. That's false. That is not a good knot. When you just tie a bunch of easy little over under knots, that thing will slip and you will lose a lot of bait, fish, hooks, all kinds of stuff. So you don't want that. Plus, learning a good knot will help you in the long run in general. So I'm going to demonstrate the best I can with this ring and this rope. So what you do, this is the end of your line, make a loop. Okay, that loop is called a polymer knot. That loop will go into your hook. Then you'll come around like you're gonna do an over under knot and go in, okay? But then you're gonna take your loop into your hook, over your hook like this. And when you pull it, it's gonna go over your hook and tighten down, just like that. There will be no slippage. Well, now that you've got your basics of getting started, let's talk about your bait, because that's very important to catch the fish. So, what most people know of is your worms. Now you got different kinds, of course. And most of your places, your outdoor places, will have a bucket like this that you can dump your worms out on. That way you can make sure they're still alive. Now these are called red worms. They're decently small, pretty good for catching your brim and smaller fish. Then you got your night crawlers. These are bigger. These are the ones you find in your garden. These are good for really anything. But because they're big, you can put the whole thing on the hook, go after like a little bit bigger fish, like some catfish, or you can use your finger, break them up, and use them in smaller pieces. It lasts a little bit longer. It's kind of just preference on that point. You've also got your crickets. Now we like to use crickets for in our pond or like on a little creek or a river. No weight, no bobber. Just kind of let the cricket do its thing on top water and the fish will just go nuts. Well, now that we've covered all the basics, the only thing left to do is to get out and fish.